Dogma is a game where you play as David Dogma, an unfortunate medieval peasant who has just had his heart ripped out by a dragon. Instead of dying, you say fuck that noise and get right back up a while later. Although the game follows your own custom character, it starts out with a section where you play as the previous Arisen. This area just consists of a tutorial with some small basic goblins and a chimera fight that then leads onto the actual game. This will make sense later as it plays into the lore of the game. Anyway, David gets up later with a scar on his chest. Although this doesn't explain much, luckily for you, it starts glowing and turns out that the dragon left a voicemail in your chest. The strangely suicidal dragon tells you, the newly made Arisen, to take up arms against him, almost like killing the dragon would have serious repercussions on the game world later. The game then lets you pick from 3 starting classes, or vocations as they're called. Fighter, a generic sword and shield class, Strider, a bow and dagger class, and Mage, a magic class. These can be changed at any time from any of the inns around the game world and are not limited to just these 3 starting vocations. Overhearing some gossip about his scar, David listens to his voicemail again. An old man then says to the woman that you're spying on that you're cursed.
The whole world's already gone mad for fear of this dragon. Won't no good come of this. I must go see to the others, Kina. Tell me if aught changes here.
All right.
So you do the reasonable thing and wait for him to leave so you can look at the woman with murderous intent. After leaving, David breaks into someone's house and steals their belongings armed with a sword and a shield. On a more serious note, I highly recommend if you're playing Dark Arisen that you should go to the inn and withdraw the monocle and sell it at the nearest shop for easy starting money. Although I won't be reviewing the DLC in this video, it'll be a helpful tip for you anyway. After doing some shopping, you head to the main gate, where a hole in space-time opens and reveals a man doing blackface. After realising that that is not okay, he stops and raises his glowing hand. The old man explains that he's a pawn, which is basically a human, but they lack self-will, so they're slaves, or as you'll likely see from low-level pawns, lobotomites.
That man you are speaking with, he's of the Pawn Legion. They come from some unknown place, just appear without a warning. They're a strange lot. Not human, quite. They look the part, sure enough, but they lack the will, the spark, what drives us. They have no capacity to feel nor act alone, so they live as sellswords.
He then tells you to head to an encampment which has people who would face the dragon to take the pawn with you. On the way there, you encounter a travelling merchant who's being attacked by goblins. You don't have to kill them, but I recommend you do so because any XP will help you in the long run. After this encounter, all that's left to do is to run to the encampment. There's a lot of this in this game, so whenever it happens, I will speed it up. After you reach the encampment, a few things happen. You talk to a glowing rock that tells you can summon pawns from it, but you have to take a trial to prove that you're worthy. This trial turns out to be a cyclops with a strange symbol on its head found outside the encampment. This fight does well to show you my favourite feature of the game, and that is that you can climb on top of larger enemies to attack weak points like the cyclops' eye. After defeating the cyclops, you see your neighbourhood registered sex offender, after which you go and collect your new pawn and make your way to the main city of the game.
You made it. We make for the capital.
This involves doing a really bad escort quest where you have to walk the Hydra's head on a cart all the way to the main city of the game. I'm going to skip over this part. Pro tip, you can use Mercedes as a projectile to break rocks. After you arrive in the city, you're told to go to the Pawns Guild. There you're told that a place under the city called the Everfall is having weird goings on ever since the dragon showed up. So after investigating, you find that there's a beholder lurking underneath the base of the Everfall itself. Doing the obvious thing, you need to run away because you're too weak to face it, but later on you'll get the chance to. After completing this quest, you're told to go to the castle where you're invited to the worm hunt. This amounts to just having a list of quests that you're required to complete to progress the game. Although this gives you some semblance of freedom in which order you want to do them in. Some of them are absolutely awful, including just generic fetch quests. The first quest is to solve the dragon's wordle, apparently. I did the first 2 steps of this, which is basically just running around the city talking to different people, and I got bored because I couldn't find the marker on the map and went to do a better quest, so I'll come back to this one. The second quest has you investigate a cult, so you head to a ruin. At this point I changed my vocation to warrior so that I could do this. After you reach the end of the dungeon you find the hooded man again. In a really bad HR move he kills this entire cult in an attempt to kill you with some zombies. After you beat the zombies, Mason shows up again, showing you that he's captured one of the cultists alive, but he suggests that you should kill him since he's seen both of you together. I obviously chose to end him as brutally as possible using my warhammer, after which I had to run all the way back to the city to end the quest and continue the first one that I had ignored. The quest then has you run north. Although you can put down port crystals to fast travel to them, the amount of running you need to do is excessive and really annoying. Just to prove it, this clip of me running to the Dragon Forge was 6 times faster than real time. Although encounters take up most of the time, having to fight constant enemies can become annoying as well. And you better pray you don't die, because you'll need to do it all over again. After reaching the Dragon Forge, it tells you that so this entire quest was pointless and an utter waste of time. After returning to Grand Soren, I bought the Maker's Finger, an arrow that can one-shot anything in the game. After doing 2 worm hunt quests, you can meet the Duke. This moves the game onward story-wise, but there's another 2 quests you can do if you want to. I chose not to. After entering the castle to meet the Duke, you get pranked by the court jester.
Pray, let this token from humble Festi garner favor with the leviathans within.
Unfortunately, you aren't able to kill him. Then in the cutscene where you meet the Duke, he makes you a member of the worm hunt, which is weird because you were already doing stuff for them. You then get to take quests from Aldous, which is basically just a replacement for the first guy. On the way out, the game tries to distract you with a woman, and then you get a long dialogue about who Aldous is. After leaving the castle, be careful, because if it's nighttime and you go back in, you'll get arrested on sight, which means you'll lose 5,000 gold, just like I did. After getting out of prison, I went to Aldous for real this time and took a quest to get evidence for a case against Fornival, the guy who sold the Maker's Finger to me. This is basically just a generic fetch quest, and you need to get evidence from different people, including a guy in the castle, 2 pieces in Fornival's house, and 1 from a guy in a church. I'm not really sure why he was being tried, because I wasn't paying attention and really wanted to do something more interesting by this point. After handing in the evidence I'd collected, I took another quest to help hunt a griffin, because Fornival wouldn't be tried for another 4 days. You first encounter the griffin outside the city, where you have to run up a hill and then use a dead body to lure it in. The way this normally goes is you fight it here, and then after some time it will fly away and you follow it to a place called Blue Moon Tower to fight it at the top. However, it killed me, and I got so frustrated that I used the Maker's Finger on it to kill it instantly. I changed my vocation to Assassin to hopefully do this to the dragon, but considering it's the final boss, I probably want to fight that one. I then returned to Grand Soren to hand in the Griffin quest and then sleep in the inn for 4 days straight. After the 4 days are up, you head to the town square where a cutscene plays that either finds Fornival guilty or innocent. In my case, he's guilty and is sentenced to life in prison.
Deceived your fellow man to sate your avarice. The court sentences you to life imprisonment.
Of course, after the end of this quest, you have to run all the way back to Aldous to hand it in. The next quest is to recover a stolen ring for the Duke. So you head out to a cave where you encounter the sorcerer who stole it. After defeating his minions, he retreats to the Blue Moon Tower, so you now need to run all the way to the top of the tower to fight him. After beating him, there's some pretty bad voice acting of him falling over, then you head back to Grand Soren. The next quest is to help Mercedes fight some guy in black armor who helped the cultist. You can either wait the fight out or just kill the guy. After you finish these quests, Aldous tells you that there's a matter of utmost importance and you need to head to the Southern Way Castle. This turns out to be a lie by Salvation so that you can summon a monster in Grand Soren. The fight against the cockatrix was fine. In fact, you had to run to some castle and possibly back as well if you didn't have a ferry stone, makes it very annoying. After heading back to the castle, there's a painfully long cutscene where Aldous talks about the damages. He then tells you that the Duke wants to reward you for your efforts. This is just a loot room. After you're done looting, a soldier comes in and tells the Duke that the Great Wall has been taken by the leader of Salvation.
The hold has fallen to a man calling himself the leader of Salvation.
After which you head to the Great Wall and have to fight 2 Cyclopses before confronting the hooded man again. After you kill the Cyclops, you need to head to the top of the wall where the leader of the cult kills another 2 of his members and summons some wights. This fight is fairly easy and they even have some pretty cool spells like summoning a tornado. After you kill them, a long cutscene plays where Grigori shows up and basically just lands on the cult man. And it explains to you that he makes for tedious listening and that if you would face him, you should come find him. After exiting the area, you need to head to the Dragon Forge again to speak to him about facing the dragon, at which point you'll be able to return to the High Wall to enter the dragon's lair. After entering, you'll notice that this area is the same as the game's tutorial. You basically just need to run through this area and defeat a chimera at the end, at which point you'll be able to confront the dragon. You are given 2 choices: confront and kill the dragon, or give up what you hold most dear and become the new Duke. Choose to become the Duke and this cutscene plays, but don't worry about picking this one because you get a retry screen at the end. Or you can choose to fight, which results in a long boss fight. You first need to run away until the dragon gets stuck and fight him there. He'll eventually run away and you need to chase him until you can shoot him down with a ballista. At which point he tries to eat you and flies away with you on his back. Your goal here is to climb up his back and stab him in the heart, after which he plummets to the ground. Then it's the final part where you just have to fight him normally until he dies. After beating the dragon, a few things start to happen. The sky goes black or sometimes a sickly green. Back in Grand Soren, the ground above the Everfall opens up, resulting in a giant pit. Then, you and the other Arisens get your hearts back. This does nothing to you really, but it kills the Dragon Forged of old age and ages the Duke to whatever his proper age should be. After returning to the Duke, he accuses you of taking the dragon's bargain and tries to kill you. This results in a quick fight against him, after which he frames you and you run away. You get cornered at the edge of the Everfall and remember what the dragon said to you, and you notice that it's a loop. You then lose your balance and fall in. This area, the Everfall, is a series of 16 chambers with various enemies. Your goal here is to collect 20 wake stones so you can open a portal to what's basically God in this game. The chambers have mainly different enemies, but one stands out. Chamber 8, the Chamber of Lament, contains an optional boss, the Ur Dragon. This boss has an online and offline version. The online one has about 3 billion health, and its health is reoccurring across all players, so it's basically just a raid boss you get reward for helping defeat. After getting all the wake stones, you open a rift so you can face God. After you meet him, he basically asks you to kill him. After which he asks if you would step forward and claim godhood, or return to a quiet life. Choose to return home, and this cutscene plays where he explains he'll just wait for the next Arisen. Choose to fight him, and he reveals himself as the guy from the tutorial. Here, two things can happen. Lose to him and you become the next dragon so you can be the foe of the next Arisen. Or beat him and become God. Upon beating him, he says that it was all a test and gives you the God's Bane to kill him.
I welcome the release.
Do so and you become God, forced to watch people as a transparent figure. Your only choice now is to stab yourself with the God's Bane and be free of the endless cycle. This cutscene plays where you and your pawn become one, where the pawn is inside of your body, ending the game. I was going to put a visual effect somewhere here to visualise the endless nature of the game's story, but it explains itself. No matter what you choose, the cycle continues. This game is still one of my favourites despite its obvious flaws, and if you haven't played it, I highly recommend buying it. So come forge your link in the endless chain.